More context can make your RAG system less accurate, not more, and that catches teams off guard right before launch.
Because retrieval is not a bonus pile of facts. It is a constraint. If you feed the model too much, weak evidence starts competing with strong evidence, and the answer gets softer, longer, and more wrong.
That sounds backwards. Most engineers think the safe move is to give the model everything remotely relevant.
That safe move is often the failure mode. The model now has to rank noisy passages inside its own attention, and it does not always pick the cleanest signal. Precision drops while confidence stays high.
So, the problem is not just retrieval missed something, it is retrieval brought too many, almost right things.
Exactly. Picture a support bot answering refund rules. One retrieved passage says enterprise plans get 30 days. Another says promo contracts are non-refundable. A third is an old policy from last year. The user asks a simple question, and the model blends them into a diplomatic mess.
And to the user, that does not look like nuance. It looks like the system cannot decide.
Right, and in production, that is expensive. Bad answers drive escalations, create compliance risk, and train your team to distrust retrieval, even when the real issue is overload.
Where does this actually show up in the pipeline? Not the generic diagram, the real pressure points.
3 places. First, query expansion can broaden intent too far and pull in adjacent topics. Second, retrieval depth can overfetch weak matches because top 20 sounds safer than top 5. Third, context assembly can concatenate passages that are individually relevant but jointly conflicting.
So, even if each component looks reasonable in isolation, the full chain can poison the prompt.
Yes, a retriever optimized for recall, a re-ranker tuned too loosely, and a prompt builder that never asks whether these passages agree. That stack creates fluent confusion.
Give me another concrete case where engineers accidentally reward the wrong behavior.
Internal docs Q&A is a classic one. A developer asks how to rotate service credentials. Retrieval returns a security runbook, a deprecated migration note, a post-mortem mentioning an emergency exception, and a team wiki page. The model answers with a blended procedure that was never valid in any single document.
That is nasty, because every sentence may sound sourced, but the sequence is invented.
And that is why too much context is dangerous. It does not always create obvious nonsense. It often creates plausible synthesis from incompatible evidence, which is harder to catch and easier to ship.
How do you detect that failure without just reading random transcripts and trusting your gut?
Measure answer quality as a function of context load. Hold the question set fixed. Then vary how many passages, how many tokens, and which retrieval stages contribute context. If quality peaks and then drops as context grows, you have overload.
What counts as quality here? Exact match feels too narrow for real systems.
Use task-specific grading. For policy questions, score factual correctness and citation support. For workflow questions, score action validity and whether the answer used contradictory sources. Also track answer length, hedging language, and unsupported claims. Overloaded systems often get wordier before they get better.
So one tell is this weird pattern where the answer becomes more elaborate and less useful at the same time.
Exactly. Another tell is sensitivity. If swapping the 6th or 7th passage changes the answer a lot, your system is too brittle. Strong retrieval should be stable near the top, not swinging because of marginal context.
Let us make that practical. Suppose I own a RAG assistant for incident response. What would I change first?
Start by testing smaller, more selective context windows. Not smaller chunks in the abstract, smaller delivered evidence. Compare top 4 versus top 10 passages. Then add a contradiction check before final assembly. If 2 passages disagree on a key step, force the system to surface the conflict instead of merging it.
That is a power shift, because now the product stops pretending certainty when the source set is unstable.
Yes, and the winners are the teams that optimize for decision quality, not token volume. In incident response, 1 precise runbook excerpt beats 7 vaguely related docs every time, especially when minutes matter.
What happens when teams ignore this and just celebrate higher recall numbers?
They get demos that look informed and production systems that drift. Users ask sharper questions, the retriever pulls broader evidence, and the model starts averaging instead of answering. You do not lose all at once. You lose trust, one polished mistake at a time.
So the real game is not stuffing the prompt. It is controlling which evidence is allowed to matter.
Exactly. In RAG, more context is not more truth. The systems that win are the ones that know when to stop retrieving.